Everybody, it's the next day after I posted the most recent podcast, the one in which I talk about my latest excursion, which I got out by a thread, by a cat's hair. But so we've got Agita there. We got one of the boys eating there, and I think this is Finn. I can feel the knot. And we've got the other boy there. That's Lcee. And something else well worth returning for, because nobody else would really look after these people and love them the way I do. Look, it's the ferals. Well, except my neighbor. My neighbor does when I'm not here. So we've got Jill staring at me. Hi, sweetie. Love you. They're okay with my talking to them and looking at them as long as there's glass in between. And there's Bcee. Bcee, love you. And Peanut. Gave her a little bit of, antibiotics again today. Gave them lots of food. She did a heated shelter is plugged in last night. And it's about 4 or 5 degrees. It's a little coolish. Starting to get coolish for me, but for them, this is like sunbathing weather, But it's the next day. Agita's there. One of the boys, I think this is Finn, is here. And Lcee is there. And I just saw all 3 ferals, So we've got Bcee there. Focus there. We've got Jill there. Maybe through here, you can see her. And we got Peanut there. Just coming back from using the litter box. Actually, where am I? There she is. There's Peanut under it's very dirty outside the window, but there's Peanut under the chair, Maybe I can get a better, there it is. There's Peanut, there's Bcee, and there's Jill. Okay, so we've got the entire feral family up there. We got the inside kids here. And the news isn't great, It's okay because I'm still clear, but it's been very, very, very tough. I mean, I wasn't expecting that, I was like going with such a big binge and, and it was so dangerous, and I just managed to get out and, should be a relief, and I should be able to just enjoy the kids and be sober and do some writing and, do the podcast and, enjoy all the kids, these three, which I am, and I'm very, very grateful to be here and to be back, But that whole thing was just so triggering and so powerful. I mean, the place it takes me, the darkness, the heart of darkness, what Conrad called the horror, the Kurtz character, the Brando character. I guess I was in his fat days. He was bald, but in Apocalypse Now, based on the Heart of Darkness character, the captain who goes into the jungle, the adaptation into the jungle of Vietnam, and then kind of goes completely into shadow, loses all sense of social stuff and, starts killing people and putting heads in stakes and stuff like that. I haven't got to that stage yet, but I'm not quite there yet, but I slither. So it's kind of a degeneration going on. It's shadow, the opposite of what one normally is. And the Sheen character was the one that came back, so funny that Martin Sheen was doing, I saw in the Charlie Sheen documentary, Martin Sheen was doing a lot of substances during the filming those scenes, and his sons were there, including, Charlie, who became the kind of, slitherer, partier of the century, kind of almost, as even my doctor said. He was the train wreck that everybody knew about, and I'm not competing with him. I mean, there's no question. But It's no, I went very, very far into the jungle, into my own darkness, and it's very, very hard to come back to the ordinary world in spite of I have all these pushes here, and the kids are so important to me, and I want to do the writing, and I've been doing journal entries, and I did a podcast. I mean, talking generally, but I did do the podcast, and it's like quite more views than I normally get these days. It's like 50, and I'm like going, the fuck is watching this, Usually get like 20. So, and I didn't even send the links to anyone, just with my 3 usual friends or 4. So I'm like, but I'm back here, but I'm not grounded. I'm still, the pulse is still, I'm still feeling even the physiological effects to a certain degree. I mean, it's been a few days, but until yesterday, I did feel some physiological pulse, and today as well, there was very strong pulse. So I fed the kids, I fed the frogs. All that didn't help all that much, and then I had to go send because the mails are working again, at least partly. So I had to go mail something to my friend out of province, who was sending me some pepper jelly as part of a fundraiser. And we were both waiting until the strike was over. I go there, and then there's like a scene at the Shoppers Drug Mart. And because I had a check in the envelope, I wanted to seal it, but the envelope wouldn't seal, and she wouldn't give me tape. And she goes, "No, I'll seal it later." And I'm like going, there is a check in there, and I mean, it's addressed to someone, but I'm feeling kind of paranoid and all of that stuff. So it became a bit awkward. In the end, I mean, she taped it up in front of me, but she didn't put the stamp on it. So I was like, I don't think that check's going to get there. So that's the kind of thing that's been happening. And there was, I'm pretty sure, when I was in that plaza, a guy started. I was just walking from the drug mart to get a sub, and some guy started swearing at me and yelling at me. Now, might have been just out of it, but I don't think so. I think he's the guy that I had the altercation with at the food store a few weeks ago. I've described that in a previous podcast. So the energy is wonky. That's what I'm saying. The energy is, and if there had been any possibility of slithering partying here today, I would have. And I even considered option of another town, another city, not too far away. But that didn't, it didn't work, and I really don't want to go out. I mean, I'm going to battle this. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it, So I've just been battling, and I'm sitting here again. We're back to what Burroughs said. If you battle by going no to the cravings or to the pulls or to the whatever, it becomes a yes, and the energy just kind of fuses, and it becomes pairs of opposites. So you have to sort of go through it. As I've said before, easier said than done. And I tried to rechannel in the kids, and I was hoping that going to give the check and waiting for my pepper jelly, which I'm really looking forward to, is homemade pepper jelly made to my taste buds, But I was like, even that got fucked up, And so it didn't help. It was supposed to be a push, and it ended up increasing the pulse. So I came back home, and I've been struggling. But you know what? At least I'm taping this, and at least I'm making a record. And that, the outside kids. There's 2 of them there, and Peanut is. I just saw her. She's over there. So it's like 6-7 degrees, but they're like sunbathing on the grass. So just looking at them, and of course the inside ones. So the kids, and I'm going to try. The goal for today was to try to write. But when the pulls are that strong, I can't even write. I haven't even made a journal entry yet, so I will. And if there had been any options here, I would have gone for it, but there weren't any options. So we've got one of the kids there. We've got Agita there. And we've got the other boy here. this one is Finn. So the one under the bed is Lcee. So I'm just going to do this. I mean, I'm going to breathe deeply. And I'm going to do it my own way. I mean, hello everybody. The good news is it's 4:44. I just checked the time on the phone when I turned it on. Bad news is I've been really, really, really struggling today. The pulls have been through the fucking roof, So, the kids are here. We've got my main pushes. We've got Agita there. We've got Lcee, I think, there. And we've got Finn there. And we've got the funerals out there. I can see two of them. And I saw Peanut just a minute ago. And I think she's down in there. I can't see her. But you can see those two. There's Jill on the grass. Jill and Bcee. And I'll try to splice in the footage of Peanut. She's around. I just saw her a couple of minutes ago. Now, the news is, and I just taped quite a bit, but I don't know if I'm actually going to use that. I will say, though, that the pulls have really, really ramped up. Because I went so far into darkness, into my own darkness, into shadow, Apocalypse Now, the Kurtz character, the one who doesn't come back, who kind of goes, right there. And he says, and his the horror that he says, that's himself, that's his own shadow. And it's sort of the adaptation of Heart of Darkness, the book. I've talked about all of that before. But, and I was actually writing something that I was calling, I'd rather be the Sheen character than the Brando character. But it's funny, in the movie, Charlie, what's the other one? The father. Martin Sheen is the one who actually comes back in the movie, the character, the captain. Whereas Kurtz, he goes too far and then he dies, And I want to be the one that comes back to the ordinary world. But the funny thing is that I was watching the documentary about Charlie Sheen, and Martin Sheen, his father, was actually going through, was doing substances, dealing with his own darkness during the filming of that movie. And Martin Sheen was there as a kid. Charlie Sheen was there as a kid. And then Charlie Sheen became the slitherer and dusty dumpster rodent weasel of the century. So, but aside from that, I'm dealing with my own polls there. I went very, very far, and now it's hard to come back. If there was any possibility of party slither here, I would have done it today. But instead, I fed the kids, I fed the ferals, I went out, I had to run an errand, and even that kind of went sideways. Jill just went into the bush. Maybe just see her there, in there somewhere. She was here, but I came out and she went there. Bcee is there, pretty close for Bcee. And Peanut is here, and there's food here, and there's food there. And I told them I had a bad day, but I'm going to make it. I told them that. So the next day we've got one of the boys there. I think that's Lcee. And we've got Finn there. I can see the knot. And we've got Agita there. Now the evening was good. I did actually do some writing yesterday, just sort of splicing together stuff, and then starting a bit of narrative. But and then I ended up watching some streaming, having some takeout food that I got, spending time with the kids. Everything was fine. At night, the pulls really ramped up. I guess it's approaching the week of the really, really major excursion and the aftermath, and I just thinking about it and just going over the horror, the unspeakable, the horrors, the unimaginable delights at the same time, and how close I got, and where I went, and what happened to me, and that started creating anxiety. So I dealt with pulls, but it's okay. There were no options here. And that particular situation from there, that's done. And that was long way anyway. And then that, went in a direction where I don't think we can go back to that. So I ended up, and it was very, very dangerous for me. So I ended up, just battling. And had an okay sleep, had some interesting dreams, got up, pulls are there again. And it's raining. Now, I've shown the kids already. But this is something else I wanted to show. Look at that. All three of them, because it's raining. And now this makes, having put that awning in worthwhile, because they're all eating here in the little covered area. This little alcove was covered, but the awning extends it. So I've just kept all the food here, the dry and the wet. And we've got all three of them. So we've got Jill heading that way. We got Bcee there. And we get Peanut eating wet food. They usually, if I'm right here, those two, the shyer ones, even though I've been feeding them and looking after them for almost a year and a half, they run to hide. Morning, everybody. Oh, it's about noon. No, morning for me. We've got Agita there. We've got one of the boys there. Yeah, this one's Finn. You can see the knot at the back. And you've got the other boy there. And this is Lcee. And look at that. Just look at that. All three ferals. It rained most of yesterday, but they came and they ate their breakfast and their supper, the side under the awning. And at night, it got a little coolish. I turned on the heated shelters, and I saw two of them at least, Peanut and Jill, in the heated shelters at night. Bcee, she probably came later at night. She stays out more than they do, she's more, got maybe more hair, but so Bcee's a brown one. So we got all three of them. Jill, Peanut, Bcee, sunning themselves. It's about 8-9 degrees. But news is, yesterday I stayed in all day. I tried to do a little bit of writing, I worked on journal entries, and there were polls, just because of how deep I went. Went to a place where it's very, in myself, where it's very, very, very hard to come back from, So I kind of, when everything sort of dissolves, the ego dissolves to that point, but, so I ended up, but, there are really no options here. And I'm going to put everything I have into it, just day by day. That's the only way you can do this. So I made it, and it was okay, actually. I heard from my neighbors, and that helped a lot. And the time with the kids and the ferals and all of that, and just doing a little writing, doing a little, trying to focus. So I made it, and then today I had a phone consult with my doctor, but she wants me to go for some tests and have to arrange them here and stuff like that. So I did tell her, I don't hold much back from her. I did tell her that I slithered. I don't think I used that term, but she had an episode or whatever. But we didn't really, the call wasn't about that. So, but I said I made 3 months, I said I made 3 months, and then opportunity came, and I'm not at the place where I can say no. And then I said, and then I said, it went out of control. I went out of control, as always happens these days, but we didn't really have that. All three of the ferals are here, so close, while I'm getting the food ready. This is huge for me, absolutely huge, So, and I'm getting some antibiotic ready for Peanut. I just mixed it in here, and then I'll give everybody the rest of the food in the bigger bowl. Look at that. Okay, if these aren't the biggest pushes imaginable, I don't know what is. And we've got all three. Jill, Bcee there on the other side of the bush, just about here, and Peanut there on the side of the bush, but because she's white, she kind of stands out. So here in Catio with the boys, about to work on morning entries. Morning, of course, being 1 o'clock. But I've already fed the kids, fed the ferals. And there's Agita there. And I can see Bcee kind of through the bush. And I saw the other two. They were on the deck just a few minutes ago. So they're nearby. Bye for now. Hello, everybody. Fed the ferals, fed the kids, spent some time with the kids. Made a journal entry. Came out. Couldn't decide where to eat. For a late breakfast here. One piece. And now, the Tabasco is kind of, it's a weird Tabasco. It's a sweet Tabasco, sweet and spice. More sweet than spicy. But I think I'm the only person here who's ever used it. That quarter thing is for me. So now, pet value, back to kids, try to do some writing. There have been pulls on and off. There will be. I mean, went so deep into shadow, and so literally a form of a degeneration of myself. And now try to put it back together and in the ordinary world, So it happens every time, and it's getting harder and harder to return. But I'm making it day by day. Wish me luck. Everybody, it's a little later in the day. Agita's there. One of the boys is here. I think this is Lcee. You Lcee or Finn? Lcee. And Finn is here. Fill the knot there. And look. There's Jill and Peanut eating. And I did some shopping. Bought some food for the kids, obviously, and some cheap snacks for myself. And went to Pet Value, went to Pet Smart. And I had my omelette earlier. Came back, and I was just washing the bowl because for the ferals, so that I could put the food later. If it got dark, then, one less thing to do. But Peanut was always hungry, even though I feed them a lot. Peanut saw me wash the bowl and was like going, she thought it was supper time. So it's pretty close. I usually feed them just before dark. So I give one can now, and I'll give another can later, So there's Jill. Hi, Jill, sweetheart. And there's Peanut. And I saw Bcee earlier before I went out shopping, and she's around here somewhere. So I had intended to come back and work on journal entries and try to do a little bit more writing about the things I hold back from the podcast. Doesn't really portray me in a very good light, but it's it's what happens to me, and it's worth recording, and the interactions and the energies and all of that. It's really interesting stories, even though, it's, and as I said before, there's humor, but a very, very dark humor in what happens to me. But anyway, the whole thing is, it's addiction, but it's more than addiction. However, all the aspects of addiction, the cravings and the pulls, what I call pulls and pushes and all of that stuff. And one of the biggest pushes, and I've said this all along in these podcasts, is, looking after my kids. Sort of, it's a little less selfish. It's looking after someone else, other people, and well, not really people, but to me, people, cats. And I've seen other people. I've seen other, people who party and struggle with issues. Also have pets, and very important, dogs, cats, and so on. The ones who don't, it becomes harder, So for me, and when I did have AI, or my friend had AI summarize one of my previous podcasts, it commented on animal care, and I guess that's what it is. It's like caring for someone else and for other, creatures who need it, the ferals and the inside cats. So, so that's for me is a very big push. And then my neighbors, and I don't give them the details, but they know I struggle, and they know about the slithering. I mean, without the details, and some of the issues I struggle with. They don't know how deep I go and how bad it is, and but they've seen how difficult it is for me to come back and to just struggle day by day. And all I can say is it's very, very fortunate that I can't get what I crave here. I mean, so sometimes, but it's not, I don't want to talk about it more. So that's what's happening. And I was told very interesting, conversations and things that came up in spite of the one brain cell state I was in. I was told, I don't know if I mentioned this in the previous podcast, but somebody had coined a term, for not understand, but overstand. And I do that, in Jung's functions, it's more the thinking than the feeling, the sensing and intuiting. But that's what happens when I slither. Thinking becomes zero, pretty much, and the other functions, particularly the sensation and the feeling, a particular aspect. Again, I don't want to talk about it more, but they completely take over. Instinct. I become like a single cell instinctual animal, very early regression in terms of Freudian stages. So very close to the edge, over the edge, dangling by cat hair. I've used that metaphor again before. So I don't want to talk about it more. I'm just going to, I think, edit and post. Just very few viewers. Oddly enough, I had more viewers on this last podcast than before. I mean, originally, when my former student did them professionally, and we had an editor, video editor, the first 20 or so, which I used to pay for, but those were professionally done, and they were promoted. My former student would promote them on Facebook and stuff like that, and some of them, they're like in the hundreds. They were in the 500, 600 views, and like the first, like over 1,000, and there's a couple of others, early ones that were over 1,000. The one in which I named the substance, over 1,000. But once I started just, very crudely editing and taping myself on my phone, they went down, down, down. And we're now and I don't promote them. I only send them to 2-3 people that know what I'm dealing with. And, we're up to, usually 20, 25, 30, lately. And maybe there are a couple of people out of the 25, 30 who were struggling with addictions. I mean, probably in a very different way than I am. But, or people who are curious or whatever, that's stumble on it. So this time I got like 65. So I'm wondering where the extra views came from. But, fine. I mean, if other people, if it's entertaining, it's entertaining. I mean, in a way, what happens to me is sort of entertaining, but I can't go into that here, So I had a bit more views. I might as well post again. I got time. It doesn't cost me anything. And if anybody finds it of interest, they can see it, if any bits and pieces. And if they don't need to see it, which most people don't. So that's what's happening, And I just like, it's a record for me, and it's the pushes against the pulls, and without giving the details. But and there's a lot of footage of the kids, of the cats, because they are so important. As I've said many, many times, the pushes and pulls, they are my biggest pushes, And somebody's saying something here, and one of the kids. So I'm going to now edit, work on editing, and then feed the inside kids and give the outside kids a bit more, So that's what's keeping me going, So from the 7 of us, and I think I'm going to do this. I'm just going to edit and post. Frameworks, Shadow, Return of the Anti-Hero, definitely Anti-Hero, not hero, but the Underground Journeys, Campbell, Shadow, all that stuff, previous podcasts, So, and I've had 1 or 2 other thoughts. They come up when I'm writing, so we'll, some interesting conversations, as I said, when I was very much in my alter, and in my alter ego. Really, very little ego involved in that one, but but there were some very interesting, suggestions and comments, and somebody was going, you could kind of breathe deeply and, kind of switch. Kind of have to do it my own way. I don't want to go back there. I don't want to, but that's what the whole pull and push is, and that's what addiction is about, and that's why I've said it's more of a possession model than a medical model. So that's what's happening. We'll keep you posted. It is over 1 full week clear. We're going, I think it's 8 days or 9 days since I've returned from this particular journey into shadow. So from the 7 of us, we've got the 2 boys here, and that one is Finn. That one is Lcee. There's Agita. And look, there's Bcee as well. And Peanut. Peanut loves her food. She's still eating. Sweetheart, I'm going to open another can in a bit, And Jill was just here. I just showed her, so shown all the inside kids and all the ferals. So there's Peanut and Bcee. From the 7 of us, the 3 out there, Agita, Lcee, and Finn. And myself, without the shadow of a doubt, the craziest, nuttiest, most fucked up professor ever walked the face of this earth. Day 8 clear and counting. Wish me luck, or energy, or whatever. Bye for now. See you next podcast.